G.
You know what it is?
A damn good show.
We got a damn good show today.
Yeah, going back in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody always thinks that whatever's going on in the world today, it's unique. Never happened before. But a very important thing to remember is that there's nothing new under the sun.
Nothing, Mr. G. Even though, certain concepts camouflage themselves, if you actually move the veil, you'll see them for what they are.
When you have new words and new terminology,
Yep.
it feels like, well, this is brand new.
Yeah.
This has never happened before. We've never had these words.
It's like a hype of some sort,
Yes,
Yeah.
there's this hype, but also this mystery. When there's a new word like decentralization.
Yeah, unconfiscatable.
There's words that are attached to this new industry that are kind of unique.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we've had the internet and we understand networks, but this concept of blockchain and cryptocurrency, those words obscure the fact that what's actually really going on today is pretty much what's been happening throughout history. People finding something new and getting excited about it.
Yeah.
And then because of the mystery of what it is
Yeah.
and how it can help us, there's a lot of mystique built up.
I think it's more that because people are really attracted by the unknown,
Yes.
something new, If you are the first one to be exposed to it, it gives you a form of exclusivity,
When you don't know something, but yet everybody is talking about it, you feel left out.
The FOMO is real.
Yeah, you're like, gee, all these people know about this thing, and because I'm so dense,
Yeah.
I'm missing out on the next big thing.
Yeah.
So I must dive in, even if I don't understand.
Yeah.
Even if on the surface it sounds dodgy or suspicious, I must just suspend all my judgment.
Yeah.
And I must just do what the crowd is doing.
And it's quite crazy, Mr. G, because, you need to at least do some research, understand some concepts before having to make a decision like that.
Absolutely. Do your own research. That's actually a phrase that I've heard a million times in crypto. This idea of figuring things out yourself. The irony, though, is if you do your own research and you look into all these cryptos, you realize that it's all just hot air. That's the kind of research people in crypto don't want you to know.
Yeah, because, it's out there. It's not exclusive or, hidden in some vault. This is literally accessible information. But it just boggles me that people choose to look the other way.
Yeah, because now the message is about riches.
Bubbles.
It's about making money.
Yeah.
And also there's this kind of cool factor. If you are into crypto, you're trading cryptos, you kind of sound like an innovator, forward-thinking kind of person.
Yeah. Because it does have that connotation to it. You're plugged,
Yeah.
Like you're ahead of the crowd, everyone doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah, so anyway, Kage, we've got a show today. We're going to be laying down some hard Bitcoin truths. We're Satoshi soldiers.
Yeah. And by the way, Mr. G, this show is not here to make fun of BTC, but it's actually here to debunk BTC.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there. This show is about making fun of BTC. BTC is a joke.
It is. But that's the thing, Mr. G. You don't need to make a joke out of a joke.
Yeah.
It's already a joke.
Well, a lot of people, they're not getting the joke. You got to explain it to them.
Once you explain a joke, man, it's out the window.
It's like BTC is the world's biggest dad joke. Like nobody gets it. Except for a couple on the inside who are dads who are chuckling.
It's very much dry humor, hey.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what we're here to do. I guess you can be the nice one, Kage. I'll be the one that throws cold water onto BTC tards.
No, Mr. G, it's not even me being nice, but it's just facts. When you're dealing with facts, I don't have to carry that much load to make so much fun of BTC. Like you said, it's a joke on its own.
Yeah. It's got lipstick and a big fuzzy red hair.
It's a clown.
In fact, Kage, please make me a picture of a BTC token with a clown face. I want to see that.
I'm gonna do that for
cool.
you.
Well, anyway, here we are, another show. So let's dive right into this, Kage.
Let's do that.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Centbee Show. I'm your host, Lorien Gamaroff, and my co-host is Kage, inside joke, Ntshingila. Kage, welcome to the show.
What's good, Mr. G?
Yo, man, here we go. We're getting closer to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Episode 59.
Jeez, man, it's been a long stretch, eh?
Come a long way, huh?
Yeah.
It's been a long stretch of us sharing information about Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin, the world's most misunderstood concept. There's just so much FUD and there's so much misunderstanding out there. Our job is not over. This battle is not over.
It just got started, Mr. G. Until the day we actually see like a global sort of adoption when it comes to BSV, I feel like that's when we can also like, you know, hang the gloves.
Yes.
But at this rate, we're just only getting started.
That's right. I mean, the world is still drunk on crypto. They're still drunk on wanting to finally make it, finally have the chance to escape their desperate situation, whatever it is. You know, I mean, the whole world needs money and everybody feels like BTC and crypto is an easy way out.
It's crazy.
Especially because the story that they tell you when you invest in crypto is that it's not about getting involved and building value. It's more about just investing and sitting and hodling. This mentality of don't worry, all your problems are going to go away if you can just go and buy a little bit of this crypto, put it in your pocket and keep it there. That's the mentality. It's not about being innovative. It's not about going out there and working. Everybody wants an easy out. If somebody comes to you and says, how do I make money? And you're going to say, you serve somebody, you do a job for somebody, or you make a product that somebody wants. It's not like, you know, this idea of, well, you know, maybe if you're lucky, you can go and buy a lotto ticket, or if you invest in the right stocks, you can make a lot of money. Yes, a lot of people do that. You know, they make it their whole career to go and find the right sorts of investments and that. And of course, you know, people can make money in that way. But that's not for just everybody. It's that easy. You know, if it was so easy that none of us had to work, we just had to go and buy some stock or buy some crypto, then I mean, you can imagine what the world would look like. You know, everybody would just stop doing anything.
But that's I feel like that's also what's been happening, especially in the BTC space, Mr. G. I mean, what has been happening there, because it's just been speculations.
Yes.
Like no innovation, like there's nothing that's moving the tech forward.
Yes, exactly. The innovation on BTC is going backwards. Satoshi Nakamoto, what he did was he gave us Bitcoin. He published the white paper, produced the software that got started, and obviously people started working on it. He had an innovative idea and he produced it and he rolled it out. But what's been happening in the history of Bitcoin BTC has been degrading
big
that
time
innovation.
Big time, Mr. G. I mean, you spoke of, you know, we need to be sort of like building. You know, I feel like that's where true value lies in things. When there's utility of some sort, especially if we're talking technology, not all these, you know, narratives that they're pushing around of people just buy and get rich quick. Because I think that's the culture that's been pushed, or maybe they are leveraging off that, because lately nobody's talking about putting in the hard work.
Yes.
You know?
And that's what Satoshi wanted. I mean, he came along, he devised this whole amazing thing, this transactional network, this cash system, with all these other cool use cases. And he said, all right, everybody, there it is now. Go and build. Go and build businesses, just like the internet. You know, when the internet was created, when we had the TCP/IP protocols, it wasn't like, okay, here we have the internet, now we're finished. No, now we've had 30 years of companies like Google and Facebook and Amazon and Uber. They have had to now go and build businesses on top of that internet protocol.
I mean, that the existence of those entities just proves the fact that the internet was a working protocol.
The protocol was just the foundation. And so when Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin, he created a foundation. And the value would come on top of that. Not just the protocol itself. The internet without websites, without apps, the internet is useless.
It's just a vacuum.
It's a dead thing. But you put a company on top like Google, suddenly now you can search the internet. You put an Uber on there, now you can hail a ride. You put WhatsApp on there, now you can communicate with your friends.
News, you can read news now online.
Yes. That's the value for the internet, not just the internet itself as a protocol. Same with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, if you don't build on it and you don't add value to it, it has no value. Bitcoin, even BSV, if BSV just is out there and nobody is using it or creating apps that make it easy to use or creating businesses that can now leverage it, BSV is worthless. And Satoshi Nakamoto, just remembering now a quote he said, in a couple of years' time, Bitcoin is either going to be very valuable or worthless.
Yeah.
And worthless because if nobody uses it, if nobody tries to make an app like, let's say, Centbee and make it easy for people to make cash payments, BSV is worthless.
Yeah.
And so Satoshi Nakamoto, he didn't just say, all right, I'm done. My work here is done. It's over. I'm leaving. I've created this beautiful thing. There it is. Everybody, come on.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's make this thing into something wonderful. But this is exactly the mindset of BTC, where they say, no, the protocol is all we need.
Yeah.
And just the fact that it exists. And also remember, you don't even have to use it. You don't have to now make transactions. Just the fact that it exists is value enough. So they've got half the story. They've got a piece of ground. Foundations have been laid, but there's no house. There's no shop.
Yet they're selling it as a house.
And they're saying, look at these beautiful foundations.
It's a property.
Yes, these foundations are amazing. If you just buy these foundations, you'll have all your hopes and dreams come true. But they don't realize that, no, the foundations on their own are worthless.
I like that analogy, Mr. G, because it's exactly what it is. It's just a foundation that has no buildings on it, no structure.
No shops, no schoolhouse,
nothing,
no anything. It's
just the foundation.
When you look at it, you just see this flat ground there with a couple little foundations in it, and you think, well, what the heck? What can I do with this? Those foundations are gold. There's gold in those foundations.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, can I use it? Don't use it. Can I build a house on top of those foundations? Don't do that. That's stupid. Because if you do build a house, guess what? You won't be able to live in it.
Because that's their logic, That's their logic, literally. And it's so ridiculous because I don't know how many times we need to be saying this. There's a lot of companies that are already building on the BSV blockchain.
Yes, exactly. As you say, Bitcoin SV, I mean, we always talk about the association, the BSV association. And what's nice about that, their website, is that they've got all these companies that are trying to build a house on top of these foundations. Those are the ones that are creating the value around BSV. And the fact that BTC doesn't have that. The only companies that are being built with BTC are exchanges, so you can trade and flip these currencies, and arbitrage businesses. They're not creating anything of value. They're just allowing people to speculate. And now to go into the theme of the show, this is not new. Throughout history, there have been new technologies, but in the early days, they weren't understood. And some people would look at that and say, this technology looks interesting, and this possibly could change the world. And then everyone gets excited about it, and then everybody starts piling in. And then we reach this peak of expectation, and everyone realizes, whoa, hang on, this technology isn't like that. It doesn't have to be a technology. It could be anything. And then there's this collapse in expectations, and there's a decline. And so we can learn from history. What we want to talk about today is, really it starts with a book written more than 100 years ago. And the title is very well known. I think most people have heard the title of this book. It's the Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds by a man called Charles Mackay. This was in 1841.
That's an old book.
Yes. And he documents times when people became obsessed and infatuated with something new, and there was a lot of hype and a lot of mania around it, and people were speculating on it. Really, the book is about mass psychology and hysteria. A very important one there is what was called the Tulip Mania, the Dutch tulip bubble. The whole idea there was that tulips were a new craze in the country. The Dutch were very wealthy at that stage. It was in the 1600s, 1630. There was a lot of wealth in the country, a lot of mercantilism, and even South Africa was colonized during that time by the Dutch, and they wanted to flex that money in a way that wasn't too
in a subtle way,
in a subtle, not subtle way, not too extravagant. All these Protestants and that. And so what happened was this new flower came from Turkey, the Ottoman Empire. It was this tulip, this very beautiful, unique looking flower. And what people found is that these tulips were in high demand. There were variations and different colors, and the whole country became infatuated with this flower.
It's a beautiful flower.
And then, of course, speculation took over. and people were now starting to trade these tulips, the tulip bulbs, on the stock exchanges.
Geez, now this is serious, because I literally thought like it was more, like bartering, literally like trading, but it was literally on the stock exchange.
Absolutely. It became a huge deal, big commodity, and people were buying and selling these things, but not just rich people who wanted nice tulips. Speculators came in because they realized, hang on, if I buy a bunch of these tulip bulbs, I can then flog it off and sell it to somebody else at a much higher price. Famously, this bubble grew to enormous proportions. People were selling single tulip bulbs for as much as it was for a mansion, in the best area.
That's insane, Mr. G. Telling me like selling a flower would actually buy you a house back in the day.
Yes, that's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was all levels of society. It wasn't just exclusive to that. Everybody wanted to trade, kind of like what you have in crypto today. Guys who go onto these exchanges and they're buying and selling. Or watching the charts and on a day-to-day basis, day trading. And so they were doing exactly the same thing in the stock markets there. There was a lot of speculation and a lot of mania.
There's always going to be sort of like opportunists, because we can see it now with BTC. So that's what was going on. People were really getting into these things, and it just grew and grew. The bubble just grew and grew. The mania grew and grew, and the hysteria, and everybody getting FOMO and wanting to get in. What people were also doing was they were buying what are called futures contracts. So a futures contract just means that you buy something for a price in the future, and you make a deal with somebody. So I can make a contract with you and say, I'm going to buy your tulips at $100 a pop in a year's time. And so then what happens is when it gets to that time, no matter what the price is of that tulip, I get my $100. You get to honor that.
Bucks. Yes. So if I think that the price is going to go higher in the future, then I'm willing to buy a tulip for $100 if I know I can get it for 200 later. So I'm kind of locking in the price. So that's kind of what was going on. People were buying these things, bringing the price up, because they thought, well, I mean, tulips are going to go up forever, right? The world is going to want more tulips.
It's always the assumption.
That was the assumption. And so prices were just going crazy, and people were willing to make contracts for extremely high valuations on these little tulip bulbs. But at some point it came time where these contracts now needed to be honored, and people were saying, no, actually I don't want to buy that tulip for $100 anymore. It's not worth it anymore. That's too high. This event caused this crash in prices, and the whole tulip market was basically obliterated, and everybody involved, and there were a lot of different people involved, they all got wiped out, and it became this cautionary tale that was told in this popular delusions book. And interestingly, the reason why we talk about this particular bubble, because there have been many, is that the tulip bubble has come up in crypto in conversations.
It has,
because crypto, a lot of people who are a little bit more clear thinking often try and say, well, look, it's very similar to the tulip bubble, this mania.
It very much is, because as we're talking now, with everything that we were sort of mentioning regarding the book, it really sounds like he was talking about BTC.
BTC is definitely going through a mass hysteria.
Everyone is crazy over it, Mr. G. You can tell with, the media, the influencers, like literally everyone is pushing that message. And I feel like we are at that peak where, the bubble is literally hyperinflated.
I thought that we had a peak earlier, but now with Trump coming in and promising 1 million Bitcoin purchase and Saylor betting the farm, the thing is that this hysteria it doesn't seem to be waning anytime soon. More and more people are getting sucked into this thing. And it's so unfortunate, because when it does collapse, and if history is a guide, and it rhymes apparently, then there's going to be a lot of people wiped out. Speaking also about the book, there were other examples. One of them was Alchemy, being able to turn base metals into gold. That became very popular. I know that Isaac Newton himself even was involved with alchemy, trying to find out, is it possible to turn copper or lead into gold?
But at least that involves a practical experimenting, of things, versus this digital gold. Like literally,
Yeah.
what are these guys doing? Because I feel like that's like the highest level of alchemy. You know?
Yes, they're practicing alchemy. Exactly. From moving from Bitcoin as cash, turning this digital thing into gold. I mean, that's digital alchemy.
That's what I'm saying, at the highest level, Mr. G, because there's no, practical work. I mean, for your Newtons and them back in the day, they had to mix chemicals.
Exactly. They had a product that they had to produce
physically with these beakers measuring.
At least Isaac Newton, he had to try and demonstrate that his processes could produce gold.
Yeah.
But with BTC, they just call it gold.
Yeah.
They've done nothing except obviously hobble Bitcoin. BTC made very important changes to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They kept the block sizes small, so the fees went high. They've introduced segregated witness, where they remove the signatures out of the blocks.
Yep.
Replaced by fees, so you can rebroadcast transactions. All they're doing is they are debilitating and changing Bitcoin, but they're not producing gold.
Yeah.
No matter how much you want to believe it,
or whatever you call it,
BTC is not gold, and so really it's just alchemy at this stage.
Yeah.
They think that by saying it's gold and by trying to sell us this idea of a Bitcoin standard, Saifedean Ammous, we spoke about him on a show about his book. He talks about the Bitcoin standard.
Yep.
He's trying to show how Bitcoin, BTC is just like gold. And of course, they will bring up the properties of gold. They'll say it's scarce and divisible and durable, whatever. And they say, well, that's it. Those words are the philosopher's stone of Bitcoin. The philosopher's stone was this magical element that could convert these base metals into gold. BTC has that philosopher's stone, which is all this a jargon and stories.
I think Sailor has the physical stone in his possession.
He thinks he does.
Yeah, because the way he also, puts out the message out there, he makes it seem like people are not really clued up. He knows something that everyone else doesn't.
He gets frustrated when you ask him serious questions.
Why don't you break this down simply for people like me that don't fully understand it?
Okay.
If you went out the yield curve on bonds, or if you went in.
Sure.
Is constantly growing. It's happening as all of these new companies,
So let's just start at the beginning, if you don't mind explaining, what is it?
Sure.
Do I have to explain this again?
It's like, you guys don't get it, you dumb.
Yeah.
No
coiners.
No coiners. And it's kind of crazy, because also if you check, that alone being pushed forth.
Yeah, we're the naysayers. They want to shut us up.
And if you check, we are trying to put the truth out there. But at the same time, we are crucified for that.
Yes, or memed to death. Right?
We are here, literally.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You don't want your theories put to the test. The thing about BTC is that there's no, when you say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. In other words, how good is this pudding? Well, taste it. All right, let's eat it. And if you're talking about alchemy, when you're trying to convert lead to gold, well, the proof is in the result. The pudding is the gold. And you can look at it. Does it look like gold? Is it weigh the same? Yes. Okay, fine. You got gold. But with BTC, they don't even have to have any pudding, because they'll just say, look, just believe it. Here, we're going to try and sell it to you. These are the rationalizations, but we'll never need to put that to the test, because you're never going to need to spend it. You're never going to need to build an app that uses it. It all needs to live on exchanges, or it needs to live in an ETF. And that's how you are going to be exposed to BTC. So there's no pudding when it comes to BTC.
Just an empty dish.
They can claim that they have now managed to turn base digital code into gold, and yet there is nothing to test there. You can't put their theories to the test, and they say, don't question it. And of course, Bitcoin BSV, which is the original protocol of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin, you can test it, because if it's not cheap to use Bitcoin, if it doesn't scale, if you can't have millions of transactions there, if the ledger can be corrupted, then you now have been able to test whether or not Satoshi Nakamoto has created something of value. So the test is now happening. Companies like Centbee and other businesses out there, and there's so many cool businesses on the BSV blockchain.org website.
Plenty.
If any of those companies can't create a product that adds value, that is useful, well, then Satoshi's Bitcoin has failed and it hasn't become gold. We've got these two different versions of Bitcoin. We've got BTC, we've got BSV. It would be nice to be able to test them and against each other and say, all right, we don't know who's going to win here. So you guys go ahead and compete and see if you got who creates value.
Fairly so,
But BTC doesn't want to enter into that race. Because if it does, of course, it's going to get destroyed by BSV. Because with BTC, you can't have low-cost transactions. And right now, really, even BTC people are all excited about ETFs and BlackRock and Donald Trump buying BTC. None of them are excited about what applications have been developed. What new ways do we have to use this technology?
They don't talk about such.
Not at all.
Because I feel like that's why, like, for me, like, this book sort of resonates better with BTC, you know, because Mr. G, it's alchemy, it's fortune telling, it's all mixed up in these, you know, ideas that are from medieval times.
Yeah, well, the amazing thing is it's not even medieval times. There have been many tech bubbles and other bubbles. I mean, if you just look over the last, 20 years, I mean, the internet was a bubble itself. And of course, we look at the internet today and we see enormous value. But there was a time before when the internet was new and people didn't know how to turn out. And then there came this phenomenon of the tech startup, the dot-com company, where now a business that was being created on top of this internet protocol could then generate enormous revenues. And so even then people realized, look, it's not about the protocol, it's about these companies. But nobody knew which company would work out and how to work out. And so there was an enormous amount of speculation back in the early days of the dot-coms around people investing in different startups. And those, of course, venture capitalists coming in and just snapping up these companies and putting enormous valuations on them.
And just based on speculation.
Yes, and then of that, of course, when you see this price of stock go up and they have these things called these initial public offerings,
IPOs,
where a company will start selling its shares to the public on exchanges. That whole process got mom and pop and your neighbor Joe, everybody now thinking this is their chance.
So this one was quite different because times have changed. A lot has advanced. So it's no longer like the Dutch era with the tulips, but this one sort of like now involves everyone at a larger scale.
The Tulip Mania did impact a lot of people, but not as much as the people today. If you think about the internet, a lot of people were buying shares on those exchanges, on the NASDAQ. Same with crypto. Now it's easy for anybody to log onto an exchange, deposit some money and buy cryptos. So the longer this bubble goes on, the more people are going to get sucked in, and eventually the more people are going to get wrecked. So it's so important right now to not be a pig. The idea of bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered. If you have invested in crypto right now and you're making some money, don't be a pig. Don't be greedy. So one thing about this book, what it talks about is that these mass hysterias, the psychology of people wanting to all jump on the bandwagon, that has been a problem throughout history. And when we look at crypto today, we see it fitting in perfectly into the paradigm of a mass delusion.
Big time.
The book Popular Delusions spoke about tulips, but that was a cautionary tale that we should apply. And we have been able to apply to other bubbles that have happened since. And of course, in our lifetimes, the internet bubble was a perfect example. But crypto is going through the same kind of bubble. People don't change. This is the thing. Yes, people in the medieval time, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have all that, but they were still human. And human beings, our nature hasn't changed. We still want to be wealthy. We still want to be successful. And if there seems to be a next big thing, we can't help ourselves.
Even with the signs, Mr. G.
You've got to learn from history. If you don't know history, what happens? You repeat the mistakes.
This bubble is getting even scarier, Mr. G, like the way it's inflated, because this one is not, like the .com one. This one involves quite a different agenda because this is tech sort of like transforming at a more massive scale.
And also tech is mysterious to most people. If you are a software engineer or involved in technology, you can make a better decision about things. You can kind of investigate, you can understand the jargon. you might be involved in, might have been part of something that happened in the past. But for the vast majority of people, for them, it's just a mystery.
Yeah.
And they think to themselves, and this is the psychology, I don't know what's going on here. I don't understand this space, but I see everybody getting into it and everybody getting rich.
Yep.
And I'm the moron who's sitting on the sidelines thinking, I'm going to miss out.
Yeah.
And so it's about suspending your judgment, but more than that, embracing your
stupidity,
misunderstanding, embracing your stupidity and saying, I'm just going to assume I'm the stupid one here, and I'm going to go and jump in. And so you end up where most people on this planet, I'm going to tell you, even guys like Larry Fink, even the big popular guys out there, even Safieddine Ammous, who wrote a book about the gold standard and Austrian economics and sounded so smart, he doesn't know what he's talking about. If you're into crypto and you're in buying BTC, you know nothing. But if you know about what Satoshi created, if you understand that a protocol like Bitcoin needs to be useful, it needs to be accessible, it needs to be cheap, it needs to be accountable and regulatory compliant, it needs to serve people, that's the key to the new paradigm, the new innovation, and the new wealth that will be created. But none of what I've said applies to BTC.
None.
So the only thing you have is hope and your FOMO, which is buoying you along.
The only FOMO I have, Mr. G, is FOMO of the truth.
Yes.
Like if you miss out on the truth, you are literally lost.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
And that sometimes entails you being like an island, walk alone, you know, and with that you will find people who act, or maybe you might have to be the one in the lead, bringing some light to people. But this idea of just, mindlessly following things and not verifying or doing more research, it's a very dangerous suicidal game.
Yes, I love that. FOMO of the truth.
Yeah.
Everybody watching this, I bet, wants to know the truth. You don't want to be the one missing out on truth.
That's scary, the thought of it. I think it's also something that you can never forgive yourself for.
In 1841, Mackay wrote that book. He talked about the Tulip bubble. But, since then, in modern times, there have been many different bubbles. There was, in the 80s, the Japanese asset price bubble. We talked about the dot-com bubble, where if you just look at the charts on the NASDAQ, it went high up and it collapsed.
Boom.
But, of course, what was very important about that bubble is that the internet itself was a valuable thing because it allowed businesses to be created on top of it. So even though the early times there was a lot of speculation, a lot of mania, and a lot of misallocated capital, ultimately what happened though is that the intrinsic value that was within the internet to enable new businesses, that was still there.
It was still there.
So people could see that this technology was going to be revolutionary. They just didn't know how yet and how it was going to play out. And so what they had to do, and what a lot of people did, is they speculated. They said, look, we don't know which companies are going to succeed. We don't know how it's going to turn out. So basically we'll invest in everything and hopefully there'll be a couple winners. And that's pretty much how venture capital works.
I feel like the .com bubble, even though there was a bit of hyperinflation to the value of these entities, but at least, the bet was on the actual tech that we are privileged to enjoy today.
That's right. I mean, the famous companies like Pets.com and Webvan, they failed. But it was really because the internet wasn't ready for them yet. The customers weren't ready. Too early. In those days, people were reluctant to put their credit cards onto the internet. That's why PayPal came along, because PayPal said, we'll give you a trusted way of using your credit card on the internet. We will hold your credit card safely and we will make payments on your behalf, so you don't have to share your credit card with everybody. So the internet was very early. There was a lot of speculation. There was a lot of hype, of course. But what we ended up with was a world that has been transformed by the internet today. And so there was a bubble and there was a collapse. But now we have climbed up out of that, and those companies adding value like Amazon.com and Google and many others that came along. That's where the value came. And now the internet, of course, is booming. And it absolutely has transformed our lives.
Probably the most, companies that are raking it right now are probably internet companies.
Yes, of course. And I mean, if you are smart enough to recognize that Amazon.com was going to be one of those companies that boomed, You could have made a lot of money by investing in Amazon.com.
Yeah.
And so, when we look at crypto today, it's a perfect analogy because, first of all, when it comes to bubbles, this is natural. People get into something, they don't know how it's going to pan out. There's hype, there's mania, prices get inflated, valuations get inflated, and then reality creeps in. But just like the internet boom and bust, crypto is going through a boom and bust too. All of these cryptos are trying to become the base protocol for this new blockchain digital asset era. So with all these different blockchains out there, I mean, we're looking at Ripple and Ethereum.
They're not fighting for one, goal. It's like all of them see a goalpost, but they all want to create their own soccer fields.
They are trying to do what also happened early on in the days of the internet, where nobody knows which network is going to be the successful one.
Yeah.
Like for building these businesses, what are we going to use? Are we all going to be building it on Ethereum? Are we going to be building them on a Ripple? Is it going to be a world where we have multiple blockchains? But people are still trying to deal with that. And friends of mine who, have co-founded exchanges, whenever I have these conversations with them, they say, look, they're not trying to create a gambling environment, right? But what they're trying to do is they're trying to let the market work it out because they don't know which crypto is going to be the one that wins. And so I guess they've got an argument, to say, well, look, we just want to create an environment for people to work that out. Of course, it's a great money-making opportunity for them,
Definitely.
And they might say that they want the market to work out, but they don't, because if there's only one blockchain, there are not going to be exchanges. Not at least the way we see them today with multiple cryptos on them.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it's probably most likely just like the internet, because in the early days of the internet, there were competing protocols, which network are we going to use? So, there was a lot of confusion around what would the network be that would eventually support this internet world that we have today.
Which is natural that way, Mr. G.
Yes,
because the environment becomes organic in terms of also exploring the possibilities. But with BTC, Mr. G, that's a different conversation.
Now, you see, they have now decided to not fight the blockchain battle or the protocol battle. For them, it's not about being the protocol that wins, that everybody starts using to build businesses.
They say, according to them, they've won.
They've won. Yeah. The market has decided it's the biggest price that shows winning.
Yeah.
What it actually shows is mania and speculation and confusion.
Straight up.
What's going to happen? And if history has anything to go by, and history is a fantastic guide, especially because blockchain fits so well within the internet paradigm.
Yeah.
It's also a network protocol. That's all Bitcoin is.
Oh yeah.
And crypto at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So which one is going to win? I think it's going to be the original Bitcoin protocol. Satoshi figured it out.
Straight up.
That was the magic of Satoshi, what he developed. He figured out how to finally solve the problems that were around that were stopping us from having this idea of peer-to-peer cash. All his innovations with bringing in the economic incentives into Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff. He figured it out, but also he knew that it was meant to be regulatory compliant and traceable.
Yep.
Everybody acknowledges that Satoshi deserves some kind of Nobel Prize, right?
Yeah.
Because he genuinely created an incredibly novel, new, powerful innovation.
I agree.
Unfortunately, BTC are now piggybacking on that innovation.
Yeah.
They're trying to bring along all that wonderful innovation of Satoshi, and yet they're trying to eliminate it at the same time.
Yeah.
They're fooling us. They say, look, on one hand, we're Satoshi's Nakamoto's invention, amazing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we're not, because Satoshi didn't invent gold, digital gold. So the idea is, what's it going to be? Which blockchain is going to succeed? And it's probably, if we look at the internet, we have one internet protocol.
Only one, and it works.
It works, and it does everything we want.
And globally, Mr. This is not like a country thing.
Yes, it works globally. It's a public network.
Yeah.
You can have video streaming. You can have e-commerce. You can have social media.
Businesses.
You can have telecommunications. You can do all this kind of stuff. On that single internet protocol, and the whole wide world is connected to it, and it's extremely efficient that way. Also, it's scaled. In the olden days, the internet was slow, but what happened was not innovations to the protocol, rather the web servers and the lines, the cables, and all that kind of innovation came along. So it seems more likely than not, if history is a guide, that there's going to be a single blockchain protocol.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin, the way Satoshi created it, given all its wonderful qualities, In my mind, having been through this before, the whole rise of the internet, I was an internet entrepreneur in the 90s, and I've been on the internet and worked on the internet my entire career, 25 plus years.
You actually like witnessed the whole transition.
The whole thing, from when it was just these networks between universities to browsers to the web revolution that we had today.
I mean, I was there, but you know, I was still wet behind my ears. I was only 8 years old then. You know, and you were already in it. So you actually are the rightful person to be talking about this, because you witnessed the .com bubble. And now we are currently in the crypto bubble.
Absolutely. When I first saw Bitcoin, the first thing that struck me was that it was like the internet, this network protocol, that now instead of information, it was transactional stuff.
Yeah.
And watching the bubble now over the last 10 years, you know, with crypto and all this confusion and speculation, it just makes me feel like it's deja vu to me.
Yeah.
And that's why it's been easier for me, I guess, than other people to recognize that we're in this bubble and to recognize what worked before. This one network protocol that was set in stone. Satoshi Nakamoto said the network protocol is set in stone. That's the internet protocol. It was set in stone when it was released. So we have exactly the same thing happening. We've got, I mean, since 1841, you know, these bubbles. I mean, 1630 if we talk about the tulips.
Way back.
So bubbles have been part of human nature and history for millennia. You know, I mean, these are the ones that are recorded, but I'm sure there have been others.
I'm sure, like, in the history of us existing here, like, it's all the same.
The psychology is the same. Now we're just dealing with a different technology, but the psychology is back, and people are just going for it like crazy, not understanding what they're doing. But there's going to become a time when eventually things settle and we can start focusing on the real value. In fact, the bubble psychology is so well known to this day that and so well studied and well researched. There's even a famous curve or chart called the Gartner hype cycle.
Oh, yeah.
And the Gartner hype cycle, they have now realized that there's a pattern with all these manias.
There's definitely a pattern.
There's always something that triggers it, like a new technology or a new innovation or a new pretty shiny thing, like a tulip. And people look at it and they're like, wow, this is incredible, amazing. And they all pile in.
And now there's a pump.
And it goes up and it goes up and everyone gets excited and everyone starts piling in and this is the new thing, it's going to be amazing. And eventually it reaches what's called the peak of inflated expectations. In other words, where people's expectations are now just sky high and they all think this is the new world, new paradigm, moon. You know, it's the same thing.
The same.
But suddenly reality sets in, like with the tulips. People realize, hang on, these tulips are getting a little bit crazy, but, you know, too expensive. These things are not worth that amount of money. And people start backing out, and we end up going down the slope into what's called the trough of disillusionment.
And you know what's funny, Mr. G? At least with the tulips, there was some use case to it, you know.
You could look at it. It was pretty.
Yeah, it was pretty. It brings, at least, you know, a nice space to the... you know, to your home.
It adds value.
It adds value. That's some form of value. But I don't know.
BTC is not even close.
I don't know, Ms. G. It's so... I struggle to understand that. I really do.
Well, remember, it's mania. It's irrational exuberance is the word. The phrase.
Thanks for that, because I'm also trying to make sense out of nonsense.
Yes.
So
it's irrational.
It's super irrational. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what that Gartner hype cycle explains, is that we become irrationally exuberant. In other words, we stop thinking and we're excited.
Just hyper.
And unfortunately, there's a moment when it's like, hang on, reality. And that hype cycle shows how it then drops down into the trough of disillusionment. In other words, where people are now, okay, it's over, it's done. Paul Krugman will say, well, that's it for the internet. It's going to be no more impactful than the fax machine.
I think that was the worst speculation ever.
Well, I'm sure he's not the first to make a bad call. Then what happens, though, is once people are now over the hype, is that there are those little seeds that were planted, you know, that innovation, that technology. There are people out there saying, hang on, wait a second. We've figured it out now. We're beyond the hype. But we're now starting to build the tools, build the apps. This was like the internet. Amazon.com, sell a couple books, sell something else. Google, a little bit of a search, sell more search. Now we've got all this stuff. And so we start climbing up the hype cycle into what's called the slope of enlightenment, where now we're starting to figure this out. Okay, hang on. That's what this technology is for. That's how we can use the internet. Let's build a business that can serve others. And we go up the slope of enlightenment until we reach what's called the plateau of productivity.
Yeah.
And the internet is in that plateau right now where it's not a question. The internet is useful.
Yeah.
And all you've got to figure out is how to create a service that can be attractive to somebody and they're willing to pay you for.
Yeah.
And so the internet is now in this wonderful place where it's touched our lives and it's delivered on all the hype that people had 20 years ago.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying with the .com bubble. It's quite different. I feel like there's a deliberate sort of like ripping people off.
Yeah. Well, there is that too.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get the scammers. I mean, of course, the opportunists.
Even like BlackRock and stuff, Mr. G, I feel like they are the biggest scammers because they have the money to play around.
Look, there's a difference between a scammer and an opportunist. And, when you look at guys like Larry Fink from BlackRock, he doesn't love crypto.
Yeah.
He's not trying to bring about this new Bitcoin revolution.
Yeah.
He sees an opportunity
to make money.
He sees, here's a way to make money.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get in there and I can control things and I can now just milk this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all they're thinking about. And so they're opportunists. They're not scammers. I mean, they might think to themselves, this is all a load of hogwash and these guys are fools, but hey, let's just sell the fools what they want. But it's not that he's, it's necessarily trying to scam you. I mean, a scammer is trying to steal from you and trying to give you a con, give you confidence in something that's not real.
But I'm looking at it this way, Mr. G. Like these guys are giving confidence to your layman to buy this thing,
As soon as they talk about it, suddenly now it seems legit.
You get what I'm saying? So that's why I look at it like these guys are scammers because if you're going to be selling something and attaching it to a value that it's not, and people must buy into it, I think that already qualifies you as a scammer. Whether it's an opportunity for you to make money or because a scammer definitely is looking for an opportunity to make money.
I mean, think about it. Let's say you didn't smoke.
Yeah.
And yet you had a smoke shop.
Yeah.
People want to smoke.
Def.
So you're like, okay, give the people what they want. I think this is bad, but I'm going to just do it. That's pretty much how I see it.
Yeah.
Larry Fink is like, well, I don't want to smoke. I think smoking's stupid, but you guys want to smoke. Okay, I'll sell you smoke.
I'll sell you smoke.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I would say, the mentality there.
You're still off the moral compass, because if you value money, that's all that will matter to you. You never really look into the true value of things. You'll just sell the smokes.
That's right. So that's why don't put your faith in these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, don't expect them to tell you, how this works and what the future of this thing is. They're just trying to milk you. Even Michael Saylor, he wants to make sure the price of his BTC goes to the moon. And the only way that price is going to go is if somebody else is going to be pumping that price up.
Definitely.
Remember, BTC is a zero-sum game. And what does that mean? Is that wealth isn't created. There's no wealth that's being created. When BTC gets to $100,000, it's not because there's $100,000 of value that's being created.
Yeah.
It just means that $100,000 has been shifted from one schmuck into Michael Saylor's pocket. So that's the reality here. There's no value creation inside crypto.
Yeah.
There's just money moving from the fools into the con men.
Yeah.
The guys giving us confidence that BTC is worth something. But now there's a positive side to this, because as with all these hype cycles, eventually we are going to hit that slope of enlightenment.
Yeah.
Now with crypto, I don't think we're anywhere close to that.
Yeah.
Except, of course, in the BSV community, there are those little seeds that are being planted right now.
I wanted to say, I feel like we are already there.
We are those little seeds that are just waiting for all this madness to blow over. And eventually the world is going to be like, whoa, hang on. Mobile money where transactions are less than 1 cent cross-border. I mean, come on. That's fantastic.
That's crazy, Mr. G. And I like the fact that we are trying to, bring everyone into this space. We're trying to put the truth out there. People must know about Satoshi's vision. And that's what we stand for.
That's right. And, we want to build a sustainable business where we give value to our customers and our users.
Yeah. I was saying the other day to you, Mr. G, it would have been way easy for you to open an exchange, build the exchange quick. We would have easily raked it and made millions.
Yeah.
We could have easily been the Luno before Luno,
or the Coinbase or whatever.
But I feel like there's more, value in what we are doing, because it involves the world at large, building on this protocol, and making the world a better place just through this tech.
Exactly. That's it. We want to make a world a better place, and we know that eventually, if we add enough value, we create value for our users, that we will be successful.
Yeah.
But it's a long journey.
And again, Mr. G, it takes a lot of faith as well. You know, like we have to believe in what we are doing. You know, it's not just, you know, us feeling like, oh, we hope we are on the right track, but we believe in Satoshi's vision. Hence, we do have, you know, Centbee wallet. So remember to check out the app on the stores. Also remember to plug your friends and family, guys. This is the real BSV plug, yo. You know the drill by now. Mobile money on fire.
Yes, mobile money on fire. Rain down flames.
Straight up.
Fire. So I guess to sum it all up, you know, we are not living in unusual times. What's happening in crypto today is a story that's been played out many, many times throughout history.
Yeah.
Where there is a new innovation, people get excited, they all pile in, it grows to an enormous bubble, reality sets in, there's a collapse, and eventually people start figuring out what this technology is about, and we start building businesses, and we climb up that slope of enlightenment onto the plateau of productivity. And so crypto, unfortunately, is nowhere near that. You know, if you look at the charts of BTC and crypto, you can see that throughout BTC's history, there have been bubbles, there have been ups and downs. And you might be fooled into thinking, well, maybe those were the hype cycles. And they were little mini hype cycles all along the way for BTC.
Yeah.
But when you look at the price of BTC now, and it's $100,000 just about, you know, don't think to yourself, that's it, we've reached this plateau of productivity. This is just another massive hype cycle bubble, and it's going to collapse because there are no fundamentals based on BTC. You can't do anything with it. At least the internet back in the early days, you could do something with it. Now, the story isn't over though, because Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin, which is represented as BSV or Bitcoin Satoshi Vision on the exchanges, that's the protocol that is going to be the one that people build on, and eventually where the value comes from. And that's the slope of enlightenment you want to be on. You want to be on the one where we have a brand new protocol for moving transactions and doing other things. Think about building a business or bringing it into your business. And yes, unfortunately, we're early. We are still early in this phase.
Way too early.
And the hype cycle is still going higher and higher. We haven't reached the peak of inflated expectations yet, it seems, in crypto. And so for those builders out there, you guys out there who have a little startup or something or want to start up, it's not easy when you are early in a bubble. But persist. Learn what Bitcoin is about and go and find the materials, like from the BSV Association. They've grouped a lot of material there together. Last show, please go and watch our last show with Evan Freeman. He was from the BSV Academy, and he's created all these learning resources along with his colleagues, great videos, educational resources to help you understand BSV. Go and start learning and start building, because then once the dust is settled from this collapse, which who knows, could come tomorrow, could come next year, who knows how long this is going to take. But maybe you can say, well, that's your opportunity. The fact that the whole world is so distracted means that you don't have many competitors out there right now. You know, if you start a BSV business, you're fortunate that the world is drunk on crypto Kool-Aid, because you're not going to have other little startups trying to do exactly what you're doing, and you're not going to have that kind of competition. So count yourself lucky. Count yourself as one of those very lucky people who are early on a new thing. And if you just start getting stuck in now, if you start learning the tools and developing the tools and learning how this is done, finding a market, then you could be the Amazon.com of the future or the Google of the future. When the internet collapsed, those little companies, they weren't making money, but they were persisting in adding value. And look where they are today. You know, the richest guys on earth were those guys. Those guys who were emerged out of the ashes of the dot-com collapse. Well, you can position yourself to be one of those little phoenixes that emerge out of the crypto collapse, which is inevitable. History is our guide. Charles Mackay from 1841 told us that this is how humans work. We are all susceptible to falling prey to these hype cycles. But you can be the one who has the insight to be able to see beyond that and create that a new startup that could be the startup of the future. And I mean, it's not a quick thing.
It's not.
You know, the internet's taken 25 years to get to where it is today. So persistence and hard work and diligence and never giving up. That's what's going to make you win.
At this point, we probably sound corny, because we always preaching, like the obvious. It's about the hard work. It's about putting in the work. Like we always say, BSV is about the proof of work.
Yes.
And it's not like an overnight thing that's going to happen. We have taken it upon ourselves to accept the hardships that come with, building, because even a farmer knows that you don't plant a seed today and harvest tomorrow. So yeah, this is a long game,
Yes. Yeah. So we're in it. We believe in it. We are here. We're working.
Straight up.
We're doing this show for you guys because we want to bring you along with us.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that eventually Satoshi's Bitcoin will prevail.
Yeah.
And those businesses and people who were involved early are going to be the winners of the future. We've got these temporary winners now. They look like winners, but the race isn't over yet. And it's the tortoises, the slow, steady, persistent, diligent ones that are going to make it. Those rabbits out there, Michael Saylor, he's just a rabbit. He's just pumping. He's just
going to be gassed out soon.
He's going to eventually be finished, and he's going to be left in the gutter panting. And we're just going to plod through and hit that finish line.
Quite funny you compared him to a rabbit because he does look like one.
Yeah, sheesh, Michael Saylor. Anyway, we still haven't done a show with him, but one day we're going to take time to really just
we need
tear him a new one.
Yeah, because, we need to sharpen our swords when it comes to Saylor, man.
Yeah. Well, blunt instrument maybe is more appropriate.
I feel like we need to shred him, Mr. G, because spreading such stupidity should be legal, man.
We're just building ourselves up because when we do it, we're going to do it hard.
Sure. Cool, man. Yeah, Miss G. I mean, that was a pretty awesome trip down, history
lane.
Yeah, just learning about, psychologies that affect us as human beings, or ideologies, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, it just also exposed the fact that, we are only human, like I say,
We're only human.
Yeah, but, we stick to the truth, That's why we're stepping into this week's user questions and feedback from our viewers.
You need FOMO for the truth. Get FOMO for the truth here on Centbee, the Centbee show.
Straight up, So, our first question comes from Juba Fruby. They're saying, is crypto a poison chalice? Because if a network that is valuable and increases in value shouldn't have the tendencies of people hodling, because this means that there won't be enough coins available on the network to function.
I think that's exactly right. What the person has said is that if you're not using the thing, what value does it have?
Yeah.
And BTC is a perfect example.
Yeah.
They don't want you to use it. And Michael Saylor, I heard a comment, a quote of, something he said the other day, which was when he first heard about Bitcoin, he had sleepless nights because he thought other people would buy them all before he could. You see? So what he wants to do is he just wants to buy up all the BTC and sit in it, like a Scrooge McDuck. Have a giant money bin. He can go swimming in his BTC.
He's swimming in come on now.
So absolutely good, very good comment there. Yes, if you're not going to use it, it's got no value.
Yeah.
Value is benefit. Benefit comes from utility.
Yeah.
In other words, what it can do for you and how you can use it, how it can enhance your life. When you're not using something, it's not enhancing your life.
Yeah.
If you've got a bucket of water and you're sitting in the desert but you don't drink it, well, then it's worthless to you.
And it's probably going to evaporate.
But if you can drink it, if you can use that water, well, of course, it can sustain you and keep you alive.
Yeah.
So this whole mentality of BTC, where it's don't use, hodl, you don't have to be a genius to know that that doesn't make sense. You can be a little innocent child, and the child will say, but if you can't use it, why is it valuable?
Yeah.
So very good comment.
Yeah. Thanks, Juba. I mean, that's quite, that was on the nail, Mr. G. Because like we saying, we were just talking about utility and activity, on the blockchain. Yeah, our second one comes from Wild Wild West Crypto. They're saying, nice. I didn't know this podcast existed.
Awesome. Cool. Well, now you do. And thanks for watching. And share the show. Everybody, this show, it's unique.
Yeah.
Of course, there are other BSV related shows out there, but we're not interested in, all the scandals and all that stuff that's going on out there. We just want to give you this insight into understanding Satoshi's invention.
Yeah.
And the more people who know that, the better it's going to be for all of us, because we're going to get to that slope of enlightenment sooner. So if you like the show, share it with your friends, comment as well, and hit the like button so we can grow. We're not trying to monetize this channel. Of course, we want you to use Centbee wallet. And on that, we at the moment have suspended a few of our services, because of a license that we've applied for. But that license is going to come. Then you're going to be able to use Centbee in all these cool ways. We'll bring back the shop, and we're going to bring back the money transfers and all that. In the meantime, you can follow us on the Centbee show, and you can learn and hopefully develop your own new business or new ideas around Bitcoin, and you can profit. We need an ecosystem.
We do.
And we need people out there, every one of you out there, have an opportunity to affect change, to bring this world that Satoshi envisioned closer, in whatever capacity you have, whether it's just speaking to friends or starting your own podcast or building an app. Every one of us out there has some ability to make the smallest amount of change. And if we all do that, if we all make some small change, eventually those changes add up to a big change. And we can move beyond this crazy hype cycle, and also rescue a lot of people who right now are getting sucked into this cryptomania and are going to get burned. Even if you can convince somebody that, look, crypto, it's speculation and it's mania, and you can make them just sort of think twice about staying stuck in crypto, because remember, a lot of people are like long-term view. They want to hodl for 10 years. That's their game plan. Maybe you can talk them down off that ledge and say, look, it's not all clear cut. This could end tomorrow. So rather be a little bit safer. Maybe if you made some money, take a bit of profit off the table. That's not being a pig. Pigs get slaughtered.
Greedy pigs get slaughtered, Mr. G.
So in whatever way you can, try and fight for Satoshi's vision. Be a Satoshi soldier. This is the channel where Satoshi soldiers convene. We can all do this if we work together. So thanks for the comment, and thanks for the like and the subscribe.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. G. Yeah, thanks, Clayton. Wild West. So our third one actually comes from Clayton. Thanks for actually talking about the wallet, Mr. G. Why some of our services have been suspended? Because our question actually from Clayton says, when can we buy BSV again on Centbee?
So we don't actually have a time. I mean, we're optimistic. We want to be regulated, and we want to be licensed, and we want to do all those things. That's the only way that business can be built these days. We're not Tornado Cash or Wasabi Wallet. So we're working on it, but in the meantime, we're still building. And when we do manage to release those features again, Centbee is going to be way better. So stick around. Watch the show. We're still early in this whole thing, even though I think crypto is kind of late in their cycle. In the Bitcoin cycle, in Satoshi's Satoshi Vision cycle, we're early.
I think BTC, it's way ahead, of its time, that it's close to kicking the bucket.
They're in the sunset of their time.
They think it's only sunrise now, and it's sad because it's gonna be a big one, Mr. G. I'm sad actually for for everyone else, not Sailor. Cool. Mr. G. I think we've come to the end of our show.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Kage. Thanks for the chat.
It
was nice to go down history lane. And talk about where crypto fits into this whole phase, and this very common pattern, this hype cycle. It's clear. Look at history and you realize history does rhyme, and it's not the first time there's been a new innovation that people have been excited about. This has happened for hundreds of years. Extraordinary popular delusions and the madness of crowds speaks to our time today. It's relevant today. It's not just relevant 150 years ago. So be awake, be clear thinking, and know that if something sounds too good to be true, it must be. Of course, that's crypto for you. And get educated, get knowledgeable, watch the Centbee show, and share it with your friends. We're going to be here speaking the truth. If you've got FOMO for the truth, this is where you can satisfy that. Kage, so thanks very much.
Sure, Mr. G.
Appreciate it. And I want to thank all of you for watching the Centbee show. Please come back soon.